Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Nikita and I'm a change management professional working with Change et al. I have over 15 years of global experience with various organizations like General Electric, AT&T, etc. And I'll be hosting this webinar. So change is key for growth of any organization as well as for our own career. Keeping this in mind, Change et al., which is a change management consulting company, has started the series of webinars around the topic of change management for the benefit of professionals in this field, as well as for those who are transitioning in this field. So today's webinar will be of help for change management professionals and those who want to explore their career in this field. Our discussion will also cover freelancing career options as a change management professional. So before we continue our discussion, 2 points to note. First, if you have any questions for our experts, please feel free to write in the chat window. And if anyone is facing any technical issue, then please write in the chat window. We have a technical team who will help you out. So first, I would like to welcome our 3 industry experts in the field of change management, Rajdeep, Ebrahim, and Priya. Thank you for joining the session, and it's great to have all of you here. So Rajdeep, may I request you to please introduce yourself?
Hey, thanks, Nikita, and good afternoon. It's afternoon here. Good afternoon to all of you. I look forward to sharing my experience in change management today. A little bit about myself. I call myself, I think my wife calls me a manic problem solver. Yeah? So I look at solving problems at everything I see and do, and most likely than not, I fail specifically at home. So I've been with change management as a general profession. I think my first experience was, I think 20 years back when I was a black belt with General Electric during Jack Welch's tenure as a CEO. And from that time, I think I've been hooked into this profession. Over the last 20 years, I've gained experience in multiple types of industries, running operations, running change teams, being a consultant. And now I've actually gone back to what I love doing most, which is building this capability and trying to make this as a habit amongst others. I currently work with Standard Chartered Bank in terms of driving their improvement habit as a means to kind of drive the culture of process improvement. Thanks, Nikita.
Thanks, Rajiv. Thank you so much. And we have Ebrahim with us, who has experience as a lawyer, entrepreneur, as well as change management professional. So please tell us about yourself.
Hi, thank you, Nikita. My name is Ebrahim, and as Nikita mentioned there, I have a bit of a varied background. My foray into change management has only been in the last 12 years compared to Raj's. Before that, as Nikita alluded to, I was a solicitor and a barrister, and I practiced and worked as a company secretary within RBS. My foray into change management came as a result of change within the when that happened, the whole financial crisis in 2008. So it was a big change for everybody, and I was kind of forced into it in a sense. But hopefully I'll be able to continue to share a bit more of that experience and expertise with you guys on this call. But thank you very much for having me.
Hey, thanks, Ebrahim. Thank you. We have Priya, who's a gig economy expert. And Priya, please share your journey with us.
Yes, thank you, Nikita. Thanks, Change et al. For inviting me here, and welcome all the participants. So I have been an HR professional always. I have around 15 years of experience in HR, and during my experience in HR, I've of course have been wearing different HR hats and have been worked in different HR functions. And from recently past 1 year, I'm working with this company called Bridgetall. We are a startup and online marketplace for freelancers, where we connect freelancers with the industry requirements, with project requirements from our clients. And specifically in the last 1 year, I was fortunate to work with a lot of requirements which are for project requirements, which are in Southeast Asia region for projects for change management, project management, HR transformation, digitalization. Also, there were a lot of big projects coming up, and also some of the projects from finance, BFSI sector. So this is what we have been working continuously, and I've been interacting with freelancers, with different clients for their freelancing requirements. So that's how recently got a lot of exposure into gig economy, and I'm happy to share my insights here on this call for whatever questions that our participants have today. Thank you. Thanks,
Thanks,
Nikita.
yeah. Thank you. Wow, we have vast experience of experts to gain from today. Thank you again for joining. And when we start our career, we equip ourselves with relevant skills, qualifications to succeed. And so, if we want to build our career in change management, how do we prepare ourselves specifically for change management? Let's hear from Raj around this topic.
Sure. Hey, Nikita, I think let me answer this in two ways. Yeah. Firstly, let me talk about some of the key competencies that are useful as a change management professional. Okay, and maybe I link it back to my experience. I can only talk about that, which kind of helped me be a fairly successful change management professional. And then I can probably talk about, hey, if you're starting off your career either as a either as a maybe an MBA intern, for example, or just started off as your career, what could you prepare yourself to kind of do better in this career? Yeah. So just to start off with, I think if I look back on my career the last 20 years, I started off with as a software designer. Okay, so I was a software developer writing code. And then I talked about being a black belt. I think two things that really hit me, and I thought was something was that I was, which kind of differentiated me with the others, was my familiarity with technology and data. Okay, so I think as a change management professional, I think the number one competency that you need to have, okay, whether is it professional or you take up something, is to gain expertise and be comfortable in technology and what technology can do, and then be able to use data and information to kind of do that. It doesn't mean that you need to have a formal background or a course. Background definitely helps, but if you're comfortable using that, you're comfortable with pivot tables and charts, analyzing information, you will have a definitely step up. Okay, so that's something that I think I would expect the people who are interested in this to kind of build on that, right? Second thing, what I've learned is that identifying the change is easy. Executing the change is really, really hard. Okay, so a change management professional sometimes needs to play the role. He needs to be really tenacious. So either he or she should, you're running a workshop one day, second day you're actually going and training somebody, third day you're trying to influence somebody else, fourth day you're escalating onto some. So you need to be flexible in terms of how you are, because all what matters is to make the change happen, and you need to use a variety of toolkits in your tools within your toolkit to kind of do that. And so I would say that being flexible, you're just not understanding, saying that, hey, this is my job, and I will stop here, and it's the job of somebody else to do, is something that you need to kind of look at. Okay, so just from this to going back to the previous question, to your question in terms of what can a new person who's just getting into the profession do? Okay, and I'll rather than giving a textbook kind of an answer, I'll tell you some simple tricks that you can do.
Yes,
You're just starting out as a career, you're at the bottom of the rung, you're an analyst somewhere, okay, or you're just a project resource, or maybe you're an MBA intern doing your first stint in a company. What you could do is see, make yourself visible. And when I say make yourself visible, I don't mean by trying to trumpet yourself, but hey, if you're comfortable with data, are you taking that extra step to kind of gain some insights, bring it out on the table, right? Similarly, I think one of the things my ex-boss used to say is, if you're able to if you're able to make a good PowerPoint slide, okay, that actually helps, because then you'll become the go-to person for your leaders and somebody else to kind of look at. So you can prepare yourself that way, right? Another interesting one somebody was doing was, I remember, this is I think a couple of weeks back, one guy, he must be just maybe fresh out of college, okay? And we were having a big discussion on agility and how we want to use agile ways of working.
Mm.
And this person suddenly started talking about his friend who used to work in Spotify, and he then went on to a 15-minute discussion on, how Spotify as a company are driving agility within their organization. Right? So keeping yourself informed and bringing this insights to the table, right, will really help you as a young professional to kind of start building your insights into and making a mark in the change management career. Yeah. So that's something that I think would be useful for new graduates and so on.
So, talking about change management professionals, what kind of career paths can they have? What should they prepare themselves for?
Yeah. Okay. So, this is going, I think the previous conversation before the webinar started with ABME, right? And when we talk about change management, it is so vast. Yeah. You could be in HR, you could be in agility, you could be in technology, you could just be just about anywhere. So I think, careers are, a lot of things you can do. So the way I would look at it is, I think there are some 4 or 5 different pathways. Yeah. One is the consulting pathway, right? Which is, hey, you start off somewhere as a bottom rung in a consultant, and you grow your way up in terms of being a consultant, senior consultant, managing a portfolio project externally, and so on. So that could be one pathway that you could do. The second one is the entire technology pathway, right? So you could start off as a analyst somewhere, which is you're analyzing stuff, you are kind of getting the functional requirements, and then you start getting that across the entire technology, adoption of the technology. um, you know most big companies, they keep having big technology programs that needs to be implemented, and then we need people to adopt it and so on, right? So the technology part is a big thing as well. The third one, I think, is the way I look at is capabilities, right? So maybe you are a person who likes the concepts, and and you want to go deeper into that, right? So uh, picking up some, say, improvement methodology, right? So if you are you started off something like a lean, or maybe human centric design or agility, you go deeper into that particular field, and then you start building your expertise, where you can start off as a person who's practicing, or secondly, then you start coaching people, you can get into training, and then overall you can look at driving this across an organization. Yeah, so that could be the third pathway that you could look. And of course there is, of course, the HR or human resources pathway, where you can drive change in an organization through new ways of working, through some again technology programs, as well as adoption of change and so on. So I think these are the 3-4 pathways that you could you could potentially look at. While, and then again, I think Ebrahim will cover this, you can jump from one to the other. Yeah, so I don't think
Right,
there is a fixed pathway that somebody can talk about, but this gives us a lot of flexibility to kind of evaluate multiple things.
right, right. So, like, we have a lot of professionals who are already experts in their field. For example, like, people are from finance function, from sales or HR function. How can they transition their career at any given stage, whether they are a fresher or they are like in a mid-career range, or if they have just, kick-started their career in change management? How can they transition? EBM, could you please help us with this?
Okay, so I'll use my experience. So I spent 7.5 years studying and training to become a solicitor and a barrister.
Yeah.
And then I worked in various guises, and then I worked within a financial service organization as a company secretary for about 2 years. And like I said in my introduction, I kind of stumbled into this role. So how did I get involved? Like I said, the 2008 financial crisis was a catalyst. Everybody wanted to change. And therefore, there was change that was happening around me. And as a result, I just got involved. That's why I said, I was kind of pushed into it. So if you're, whatever level it is, whether you're a senior, mid-level, or, just starting off, and if your organization or your particular role is not immediately within change, so you didn't train to be a change manager, and then that's your first role. One thing that I would say is change is happening in your area. Get involved. So 3 things I would say. Change is happening in your area. Find it. Change is happening in your area. You found it. Get involved. And by getting involved, I mean having an active role in there. Now, you're a finance person, you're an HR person, or in my case, you're a lawyer. You know the depth of the actual area. Therefore, you probably know where the issues are. You've experienced the issues and you've probably lived with them. Therefore, you have in your mind the ability or the requirement for change, which is you know where the issues are and you probably have some of the solutions already. So get involved. Don't just sit on the sidelines and just throw things across the table to the people that are doing change. Be a part of the project team. And like Raj, alluded to there, find something that you are good at that you can join in with that particular change. And then the third thing is find the next one. So find the change that is happening here. And if you're in an area where change is not happening, run for your life because that is coming to an end soon. If change is not happening in your area in any way, shape, or form, that the organization is just doing one thing and there's no change project somewhere that you can hear of, run for the hills because that organization is bound to collapse at some point. So find the change in your area, get involved, like be a part of the project team, as well as be a lawyer or a finance person. And once you have helped submit the solution and deliver the solution, find the next one. What will then happen is you're almost going from a subject matter expert, like I said, in my case, a lawyer, to somebody who's effecting change within the legal environment. I've effected a lot more change within the legal environment. Now I'm learning a lot more about change and how it can happen in the legal environment. And before you know it, I'm transitioning from one thing to another. And the beauty of it is you don't have to do that full transition. You can actually straddle both.
That's correct. That's true. So when you're transitioning your career, what are the challenges that you typically face?
Yes, so again, I try to put things in three because it forces me to think about three most important things. So the three things I said that I faced that was, first of all, starting from scratch. So I was not the most experienced lawyer in the area, but I had some, years of post-qualified experience. Now, within my profession, like maybe within medicine or my previous profession or places like medicine, the number of years that you have spent as past your qualification is important. Like you literally wear it on your sleeves as, I am more senior than you by a year. It means the world. Yeah. So one of the challenges that I faced was leaving the experience and I suppose all the perks that come with it. So whether it's pay or just people listening to you because they know you know what you're talking about, and just the amount of time that I spent studying that and getting to the level that I got to, leaving all that behind, in a sense, was one thing for me. And then starting from scratch, where I had to learn everything about change from the beginning. So, I was already a little bit older than a lot of people who were already there, and I had to take orders, which, and that sounds, a little bit pompous, but we're all human beings. You get to a point where, you are now starting from scratch, essentially. So that was one issue. The second thing was the language. So the language of change is very different, believe it or not. So change people have seen processes or issues through a particular lens. And the way we describe change and the way we articulate change that needs to happen or a problem is different from the way people who have no change experience articulate it. So you must learn the language. I had to learn the language. In my experience, I started off as a lean practitioner. I had to learn what the 8-way star. I had to learn what takt time was. I had to learn a whole lot of technical things. So not just the technical expertise, but also the language, because when people are talking about it, you can then pick up things quicker. And the third thing is sponsorship. So in my experience, and if you're changing as well, again, you're starting from the bottom. The one way that you can help yourself feel better, but also get better, is finding someone who recognizes your potential and who has the time to help you speed up that learning. If you're fresh out of university or fresh out of school, it's expected that you don't know a lot. And those people, they don't mind doing, not knowing a lot. But if you're changing from one profession where you have proficiency into another one, what you want is someone that recognizes, look, this guy used to be a solicitor, and now he has to learn what the 8-way star, or now he has to learn what a scrum is, and that person needs to understand that and help you, almost not drag you along, but really coach you and help you, make progress in leaps and bounds. So 3 things. You're starting from scratch. That was a challenge. Mm-hmm. Second thing, I had to learn a new language. And third thing, I had to find a sponsor, because just being there and just doing my own thing was not working. A sponsor or a mentor, or in a lean setting, they call them a sensei, which is kind of makes it sound but essentially just somebody who is experienced and is senior and understands your needs to progress, but also the fact that you had a previous life before this.
Mm-hmm. So, nowadays, in light of what is being predicted, about jobs that would no longer be here in the future, What do you think the future holds for change management as a profession?
So one of the things I said earlier is if your organization is not changing, like there is no obvious change projects, then run. And that's because change management, in my opinion, will always be there. Why is that? Even if organizations now are changing quicker and jobs are falling by the wayside, somebody still has to take that job from where it is now and put it into the future. If it's going to be automation or robotics or workflow tools or some sort of technology, or even the fact that we no longer offer this product and we're now offering something brand new, and therefore all the jobs that have to do with that product are disappearing. Somebody has to recognize that that change is happening. That somebody is you. So in my opinion, even some aspects of law are disappearing. Some aspects of medicine are now being, they're going to be thinking about automating it. Now, if those big professions can change and people can lose, some sort of, and it's moving from one thing to another, then no organization or no profession is safe. However, the change profession is safe because the leap from one to another needs to be done by somebody who understands the process of change. So I think in terms of your interest, I think you're spot on in the right place. The other thing as well is I went to one of my senseis in the past used to say, right now what we're doing as change professionals could even be seen as, a difficult task and, something that might fall on the wayside from we're doing something and we want to change to the future. He's saying his point was, even when organizations are starting from scratch, even the design of a brand new startup or brand new product or service that nobody has thought about, change is required. Because as a change manager, one of the things that you can help them do at the very start is set up the organization in a way that is flexible for change when they need to happen. Because, if you think about Google or Facebook 10 years ago, it's very different, very, very different. And 10 years ago, they were already in the forefront of what they were doing. But they've had to change very quickly and they've had to improve very, very quickly. We'll always be in a job, don't you worry.
That reminds me of something, it says change is one thing that's always constant.
Yes.
So that is really true,
Yeah.
Coming back to you, Raj, based on your experience, how is the change management as a career in Asia? Because Asia is very different from, say, Europe or US or any other place. So what do you see for change management as a career?
I don't know how different it is, but I'll tell you a couple of things I'm seeing, a few things that I'm seeing. If you just look up, and just before this, I was just looking up LinkedIn, right? And you looked at the jobs of change management in Singapore. Okay, there are 2,560 jobs as we speak. Okay, so, and if you look at the kind of organizations that are asking for change and having change management in their competency, right? It's just about everywhere. I mean, you could name a company and it's probably there. Okay, so, but a few industries I think are they look at the change professionals, external change professionals more easily than the others. Okay, so banking, financial services, okay, insurance, okay, they look at change management as a profession, right? Kind of versus a manufacturing who will think change management is part of what they kind of do in some areas. Okay, so services, banking, financial services, insurance, telecom, some of these places you will have a lot of requests for change management kind of things, right? Secondly, if you look at the Googles and the Facebooks of the world, okay, now as they scale up, okay, and they want to drive new things, new ways of adoption, they will have a lot of requests in, they use words like community manager, they use they use this interchangeably, but there's a huge component of change management there. Okay, that's the second thing I'm seeing. Third thing is, of course, if you look at it, and probably, from the gig economy, you will cover it, Priya, but hey, Asia is the operations hub, the technology hub, this one of the world. Yeah. So, and a lot of, projects or concentration of resources involved in change activities are kind of concentrated here. So from that way, I see this profession just kind of expanding and becoming bigger and better in Asia than probably the West. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ebrahim, could you please throw some light on, say, UK, Europe, or Africa market?
So again, like I said, change is everywhere. I'll use my own experience. So when I first of all started in change, I haven't had a break. Any break that I've had between 2018 and 2020 has been change. So I've been roles is one that I've taken myself, or some that have happened with no explanation whatsoever. And that's because change is happening everywhere, like Raj said, and like I've said several times. So in terms of the opportunities there, they are there. In terms of how you harness those opportunities, in my experience, word of mouth, competence, and referrals. So people that I've worked with in the past would say, oh, there's the change happening here. Ebrahim has this specific experience, and he has the either the technical expertise or the emotional intelligence, whatever it is, to actually deal with this. And then they contact me wherever I am to say, are you interested in this? And then I consider. So it's everywhere. How to actually get it, I believe, is those word of mouth or referrals. Now, if you're just starting off, which means that you probably don't have the whole commodity of, or the commodity, I suppose, the circle who would refer you already. If you don't have that, then like I said at the start where you are, because what you're doing here now, whatever in any organization in Asia, is probably going to be happening, or has happened in the past, or will be happening again in the future in Europe. So it is very connected. If you think about the change that is happening in terms of the separation of the UK from Europe, so government and public sector would require oh my goodness, that's going to be like a 10-year, 20-year, gig for change people, either in permanent work or in the gig economy. So I would say definitely public sector. Financial services, we're not out of the woods yet. We're always going to be regulated. We're always going to need to change. There are challenger banks everywhere coming up with snazzy ways of doing things. Look at that. Raj has pointed out the fancy, organizations like Facebook and Google. Come on, in fact, they have entire departments dedicated to just finding things that they need to change. Just go and go and do your research to find change. So yes, and those obviously have hubs as well in the UK. In the UK or Europe in general, and in Africa as well. I would say personally, one of the interests that I have and that I've gone into a little bit is the Africa market, and that's because Africa is still seen as an emerging, various parts of Africa anyway are seen as various emerging economies in various stages. So the change there is huge. The opportunities for change there are huge, whether in governance, again in financial services, again there are huge tech startups there as well. Google has a very big base in Nigeria. We have remote developers in organizations like Andela in Nigeria as well. And then, of course, there's opportunity. There's great opportunity. Like Raj alluded to there, if you just simply go on LinkedIn, connect with change professionals, ask them, what change are you guys going through? I'm interested in X, Y, and Z. This is my experience. Do you have 5 minutes to talk about this? A lot of people will not respond in my experience, but if you do happen on people like me, I will take you up on the offer and share as much information as I am able to. So there are people out there who will connect with you from a European perspective as well, and they're happy to share their experience and insight. So you can use that as a way in as well.
Wonderful. Okay. So as we're talking about transitioning our career, like we said, gig economy is coming up in a big way globally. And a lot of professionals are opting for freelancing. So Priya, could you please share your thoughts on requirement of change management professionals in current scenario?
Yes, Nikita. So we have all been discussing that the change management requirement is there and is going to be stay there in the industry now. But what with this current situation? So we have seen businesses have dropping, sales are going down. Even for many organizations, the forecast for 2021 has also gone down. So it's really important for all the organizations to take a look at their cost, because they cannot run in the same way that they were running in now this situation. So many of them are taking a look at their cost in this current scenario. And that's why there are a lot of things that they will look at. They will look at headcount, of course. They will look at their processes. They will look at business systems. They look at several things that they are doing and how they can change it effectively. So that's one area. Take example of digitalization. We have seen a lot of organizations, they have put digitalization on the back burner, and now they have to, it's imminent. They have to take up those digitalization projects now. Even in Singapore, we have seen right from anywhere in airport, how the boarding will happen. Everything we are trying to make it as digitalized as possible. So that's what we are seeing. These projects are coming up, and they will still keep coming up. We have so for people processes also, hiring we have seen is digitalized, but even a lot of companies are even now doing induction on digital. Training, you see there are a lot of these e-learning programs coming up. Even this seminar, if it could be in a regular situation, it would have been a conference room, a kind of a seminar, but today we are talking to each other on a webinar. So digitalization is the way, and these projects will keep coming. Even on more business processes point of view, many organizations we see are looking at their quote to cash process. So at every stage where they can digitalize, where they can make it more effective is what they are looking at. So that's one part where we think the projects will keep coming for change management. Then organizational structure is another part where change management projects will come into the picture. The way we have the organization right now, it may not really work for some of them, because they really have to take a look at how effectively they can use their organizational structure. Some of them are also looking at how they are divided geographically, how they are divided product wise. So they are taking a look at it, and everybody wants to see how they can run more effective manner. So that's where more and more change management projects will come up, and there will be a need for that. Then the last part, of course, everybody wants to go back to normal. Everybody wants that things go back to normal. Be 6 months, we are ready to wait. 1 year, we are ready to wait. But eventually, we want that things should go back to normal. But we see there will be proactive organizations who will, even when we go back to normal, they will still continue to take up the change management projects for continuous improvement, because it's very important to keep looking at what we can do and how we can continuously improve. So foresee, so in this current situation, plus when we recover from COVID, we still see that this is relevant, and organizations will keep taking up change management projects. Yeah.
Right. So for these change management projects, what model do you see companies prefer? Like, do they prefer full-time professionals more, or they rely more on external consultants like freelancers, or it varies from industry to industry? How does it work?
Yeah. So we just saw that there are industries like they have their own. Rajdeep just said that in LinkedIn, a lot of jobs are there for change management, and a lot of companies have these titles as I don't know, transformation lead or change management, global change management officer, and a lot of change management departments, and we see that more and more coming up now. But again, there is no one size fits all. So like some organizations do have this internal department, and some do rely on external expert. There are various factors which organizations consider whether it is internal versus external. What we have seen is it's a overall vision of the organization. Size, of course, does matter. Vision of the organization, their urgency, the kind of projects they want to drive, the number of projects that they want to drive, and also the expertise available internally. So some of these projects do drive the decision of the organization. And having said that, we also have seen requirements for freelancers from the organizations, or even in BFSI sector, where they have a full-fledged internal department, they have a change leader, they have a change officers or change managers internally. But there is a time where they want to really accelerate their projects, or they want more people to get involved and really drive the project in a speedy manner, and such time they require the freelancers to come. Of course, on such projects we have seen the freelancers, our requirement is generally at a junior to middle level, but still for acceleration they do require freelancers. Whereas there are other organizations which are more kind of have more nimble approach, and I would say they want to take a incremental improvement kind of approach. So they would identify area for change management, and they would quickly get an expert from outside, somebody who has done these kind of projects and who will drive these along with the internal team and get them results quickly. So it's already identified area, and they just bring in an expert, a transformational leader, somebody from the same industry. somebody who has done these kind of projects. They will bring in and run these projects quickly. And these projects we have seen typically are like, say, 6 months to 9 months or a year kind of project, where they quickly pull in an expert resource and they run this project. If there are any other further advancements onto the project, any other follow-ups, that internal team is does take up. So yeah, both kind of requirements, and organizations uses them as and when, based on several factors.
Right. Okay. And you're talking about these companies. So what do they look for when they engage freelancers for change management?
Yes. So it's again very broad, and I know Raj and Ebrahim, they've already discussed what we should do when you are a change management professional, and yeah, lot has been discussed. I will just add on a little bit. When we discuss, of course, there is a job description. They want to be as detailed as possible. You need to have those kind of certifications. You need to have that qualification, be open-minded. So yes, I totally agree. These are very important point. But whenever we have this discussion with a hiring manager, and when they say they want a freelancer to come on board and do their project, generally, whatever is the job description, I generally see two phrases. I will just quote it here, and they resonate. They just resonate with their requirement very well. And any freelancer, they want two things they say is that been there, done that, and hit the ground running. This is the two things this person should be doing. These things are important even when you hire a full-time resource. So because I've kind of heard this even when I was doing hiring for corporate, when I was part of some of the MNC companies. So I know these are important. But from the time I started working in the gig industry, I feel that these two things are all the more important for any freelancer. Because even for a full-time employee, when they join the organization, they have kind of a warming in period to understand the organization, to establish relationships internally, or to identify the critical goals that they want to achieve. They do have that little bit warming up time. But for a freelancer, they have it is expected that they hit the ground running. I mean, they have to start giving deliverables from day one. And to do that, what we suggest with the freelancers or when we deal with the client is that to be as much clear as possible about the project. So whenever, this is a very practical tip, of course. So whenever a freelancer is starting a project, we let them know that you understand as much in detail as possible about what's the scope. Sometimes even if possible, detailed task list and when that is expected. So the more time they spend before start of the project, it's easy for them to start and get running when the project starts. So that is one thing really important. And I think also our other two experts covered that it's also important to be deep in your experience, also important to be diversified. So when organizations want, if they are from BFSI, they want that the person should be from BFSI. Sometimes manufacturing lean, they want the person should have done these kind of lean projects. Yeah. But even in this current situation, I would like to advise that if you are deep in certain project, also try to be a little bit diversified, because that does help. We have seen where somebody who has done a manufacturing project, but they did an amazing job when they went to BFSI, because the change management, like you say, the principles are same. The language, Ebrahim said, is kind of same. If you have those kind of certifications, if you have done those kind of projects. So we have seen them also becoming very successful when they have diverse experience. So yeah, these two things, I think, what organization look for when they really want to hire a freelancer for change management.
Okay. Yeah, that's correct. And now the most important question, I think a lot of our attendees will be interested to know this. What is the industry standard for rates for freelancers, specifically in change management? And how does the financials work in this industry? Okay. We don't get to know much about this. So, it'll really help if you could share something.
I know any such discussion we cannot avoid but without discussing the cost.
I'm keen to know as well, yeah.
Yeah, so I have to be very careful now when I'm quoting any prices here. But let me tell you first that many of them feel it's like really nice, fancy to be a freelancer. It's a good advantage because professionals get to choose what kind of projects they want to do, that what kind of assignments they want to do. So it appears really good, but of course, like you said, Nikita, money is very important. So that's also many wants to know that what are the kind of rates and how will I get paid. And we have a lot of professionals who are from corporate background. They have had their career there, or they are mid at the mid of it, and then they want to explore this freelancing field. So they come to us, and even they ask that, this was my last drawn monthly salary, and should I just kind of divide it and make it a per day rate, because the client is asking for a per day rate. So it doesn't really work like so simple, because the freelancers don't get like a basic salary or insurance or medical or retirement benefits. They don't get these different components. But you don't have to feel bad if if you want to get into that field, because it's important. If you don't get those components, we need to roll up those in your per day salary. So this is how typically, so we tell them no need to directly make your monthly salary into per day. We'll also need to add these benefits to that, and then use that per day salary. So that's one part of it. Second is, sometimes it's a hourly rate also, because some consultants or freelancers are there for a very particular, say, strategic kind of a project, transformational kind of project, which might run just few hours in a particular month. So that time also the rate is higher than per day, and it's a per hour rate, where the person is not required to work for the whole day, but only few hours in a week, or few hours in a month. So that's a per hour rate, per day rate. And of course, there is sometimes a monthly rate, because if the project is long, and sometimes the client wants a full dedication of the freelancer, so they would like the freelancer to work only on their project, like for entire 8 hours, coming to their office like any other employee, and be engaged with them for say 6 months, 9 months. And such cases, the freelancers, even the expert ones, experienced ones, are ready to kind of negotiate, because there the per day rate cannot be directly made into per month kind of a rate. There it will be little lesser than that. So having said that, I know you're just waiting for the overall rates. So I will just from the experience, whatever projects we received in change management, if we have a requirement for a person in change management with an experience of say generally 7 years plus, so 7 to 15 years experience, if we require that kind of a experience, then generally we have worked on a per day rate of a range of say 600 Singapore dollars per day to about 1,200, $1,300 per day. So that's kind of a big range. Again, this is, I'm talking about like a middle level kind of a requirement. There are it really changes. I maybe, I don't know, EBME, you have also worked. Is that you can also add in if you want anything, want to add anything else. But generally it's in this range of $600 per day, which is a very kind of entry rate
And
for this profession.
I'm sure it depends on which function you're working for and what kind of experience do you have. If you are specifically experienced in any niche area, a very specialized area, then definitely the rates will differ.
Yeah. Rates are totally, I'm just giving you a little bit idea on, again, based on what we discussed with some of the clients who came up with such requirements. So it's really, I mean, it really differs. But yeah, this is the kind of range we have seen. Yeah.
Right. EBME, would you like to add something here based on your experience?
So, oh, it's an echo. Is there an echo at your end?
Nope.
Not at our end.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So my experience covers only Europe and the UK, and an average daily rate for someone with my experience will go from about £450 a day to 1,300. But that depends, again, like you said, on the industry, the role, whether it includes your expenses or whether it's in country or out country, etc. So, for example, I've worked out in the Philippines as well while living in the UK, and the rates there were very different from if I was just doing a gig in the UK. So, but from my experience anyway, and I've got 12 years experience in change management, that is.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, understand.
We
I think we can
have,
take
Nikita,
some.
few questions coming up. Do you have any other questions for the speakers? I just saw some questions from the attendee of.
Please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead. I think it'll be good if we can take some questions from our attendees.
Yeah, I think we still have 15 minutes, so if we can take some more questions. Divya is asking, what are the certifications that are seen credible in the market for change management professionals? So yes, very valid questions. We have two people, industry veterans, Raj,
Raj,
Ebrahim, anyone of.
would you like to share some inputs here?
Yeah. So I think a few elements, right? So so there is this things on improvement is in general, right? So things like I think lean as a concept is still accepted well in the industry. It comes in different shapes and form. They call it different things, but that as a professional or a certification slash experience, right, really helps. In the recent past, I think human-centric design as a concept has picked up. So you get yourself a Luma certification, get yourself a just a Coursera certification on. There's something or there's a lovely course. Uh, I forget the instructor's name, but it's a very nice course where you can to talk about it. Gets you a little bit of an advantage for you to understand what are the different practices of human-centric design. Agility in the last few years has taken up in a very big way. Okay, so the agility in terms of now just not technology agility wherein you use agile for technology problems, but now especially banking, financial services, and some, of course, the Spotify's, and they're using agile in business. So business agility at scale. So having some sort of a certification or experience that area really helps. Yeah. So and just not experience, I think, just not certification, I think experience, or even if you don't have a formal thing, right, if there is agility happening in your company right now, get involved. As Ebrahim said, do a project, get a thing there, do a certificate course, get an external thing done. It's a stamp kind of a thing that will really help you kickstart your career, right? Of course, there is the data aspect of it, right? So you could call yourself a data scientist. There is this, I see data scientist as one being purely technical, but hey, if you're a change manager and have no data science, wouldn't that be a really good combination in terms of really understanding how do you use data to make change happen, right? So these elements are all becoming it's evolving. Okay, so the earlier you're able to get into these fields, the bigger advantage that you might have. Yeah. So, and especially data science is a, I mean, I think I was reading some article. There are, I think, some 100,000 odd job shortages of data scientists. Yeah, and then if you are able to kind of get in there, maybe you want to start, you will start from a lower thing, but the career progression will be really fast. Yeah, so these are some elements that I think are valid now that you can potentially use.
Right, right. So we have another person, Ravi, who's asking about, a person with say 25 plus years of experience in one particular industry with say management, sales, and operations experience. If he, his competencies are transferable to other industries, and if yes, then which industries can he move to? Ebrahim, would you like to take up that question, please?
Yes, sure. So the 25 years experience in one particular industry, if you've had any change experience in that industry, it is transferable. The only downside to that is it comes down to the language. So if you're having a conversation, if you've maybe been in sales, maybe technical sales, big, heavy machinery, and you've been in change there and you now want to do change in financial services, it's navigating the language. When I say something in financial services about change, what is the equivalent in your environment? So reading up on the industry that you're looking to, read up on it, try and suss out the nuances and the change in language and interpret it in your mind, so that when you're explaining it to people at an interview, or maybe you can even adapt your CV accordingly, you can change that language, or you can articulate your engineering change experience and articulate it in a way that a financial service person would understand.
Right, right.
Okay.
Can I just very quickly just
See the other.
go back to that one? So there's a
Sorry,
list of training. So Prince 2,
Yeah.
PMP, Lean Six Sigma certification, Scrum Master certification. I did an MBA in change management. So all those things, like I said, would give you that language and help you calibrate your eyes so that, I mean, I go into a restaurant, for example, and immediately I start calling out things that need to change there. Why? Because I've done this training and they've used examples like that. So if you're looking for those particular types of trainings, Lean Six Sigma, MBA in change, Agile, Scrum Master, automation is another one, and data science. RBS and organizations back in the UK were letting go of a lot of change people because of costs, but they kept the data science people. And as a matter of fact, even the entry-level data science people were getting a lot of money. So data science is definitely a big one if you've got the capacity to start learning about that. Sorry.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, see the other thing to Ravi, yeah, just a comment to Ravi as well. If I were you as well, what I would also evaluate. You see, you're specialized. Okay, you're in the sales area. You might want to position yourself as a specialist there. Okay, so one thing you could also evaluate is executive coaching kind of thing to start off with. Say so a lot of big industries starting up. They senior leaders want, and then use that as an avenue to get into or expand into change management, which is, hey, somebody, this one, you're coaching the person in an area which you're comfortable in, what are the nuances of how that is happening, but now you're in an advisory capacity, and then from the advisory capacity, then you're kind of positioning yourself as that. So that could be I don't know, maybe another avenue that you could explore to kind of get into the field.
Right. Yeah. That could be one of the ways. Priya, you can help answer Ajay's question. So he's asking what could be the prospect for someone with 30 years of sales.
I was just coming to that.
Experience.
Ajay wants to know that prospect for someone with 30 years of experience in sales and business development, wanting to freelance in change management. So yes, overall in the freelance industry, we have seen traditionally we used to see that only people from mid-career level to after retirement they go for freelancing and they want to take up these kind of projects. But it's seen as more even for the students who are out of college, they want to take up new gigs, they want to work with different organizations. So with 30 years of experience, definitely they can get into the freelancing industry. There are a lot of companies looking for the expert advice. Only thing is, what is your specialization that you'll have to look at. If it's sales, then what industry? Sometimes a deep industrial knowledge also is very helpful for freelancing. And so I think it could be any field, but if you have a special expertise, it can be you can become a successful freelancer. Yeah.
Right.
Anything you want to add, Rajdeep, EBME? You have seen anyone? This is specific coming to change management.
Yeah. We have a question from Sanjeev. So he's asking about design thinking, if design thinking could be combined with change management. Raj, would you like to help him? Yeah, go ahead, EBME. Go ahead. Please go ahead.
Sorry, that was my answer. 100%. Yes, it can be.
Yeah.
It can be. Go for it.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I would, as you do EBMs, I wouldn't separate them out. Yeah, there's just a form, and this is a one aspect of change, which is this entire thing, right? To understand what the customer wants. So yeah, I think a background there, some experience there will definitely be really appreciated by a lot of organizations. Yeah, and in fact, I think a lot of the banking. The companies, they are looking at human-centric design as one of the key skill sets of the future. Yeah, so so that this is absolutely bang in the middle.
Yeah, that's true. And Aditya is asking, Priya, maybe you can help with this. He's asking about future of culture transformation for change professionals.
Yes. Culture transformation,
and this will always be there. Yeah.
Yeah, it will always be there. And we have, in fact, in the last year, we have seen some of the organization, HR transformation is overall what many organizations are looking at, where they want. So HR transformation does involve a lot of cultural change and cultural transformation. So it is a big part when we talk about change, and change management. Many a times we feel is a technical field, and it's about looking at business processes or only looking at bringing the cost down and those kind of more technical things, but HR is also a very big area where change professionals are required. A lot of change managers are there who are HR professionals, and cultural transformation, cultural change is a very big part of change management.
Right, right. That's true. That's true. I think before we wrap up, I'll just go around with all our experts and, if what you suggest is a key takeaway for our attendees. Where should they focus for their future? Whether they're transitioning their career, they're starting their career, we'll just give a quick takeaway for them, which will help them. We can start with Raj, yeah.
Okay. So I think key takeaway is, I think, as we talked about a little bit of the competencies. I think one is that be there's this, you need to have this habit of learning, yeah. So which is because there's so many new concepts coming in. There was some of these concepts did not exist 10 years back. Okay, so keeping yourselves abreast with all these changes, which and then the new things. The fundamentals are exactly the same, yeah, which is how do you make your things better, how do you make it faster, it's just the different ways of kind of doing it. Okay, and then how do you make some change stick, right? So that's going to be critical as one. Okay, the second thing I think is there's a huge opportunity because all organizations are looking at reskilling employees, yeah. So there is this huge thing you talked about, cultural transformation. So that reskilling, and nobody today has really figure out the art of reskilling at scale, right? So I think from a change aspect, the change management aspect, we will pivot towards that at some point very soon, yeah. So I would say just keep yourself abreast of these things. Don't get stuck to a methodology, right? You will have a lot of times, I know first 10 years of my career, I used to be stuck with Six Sigma. I said that was what is God sent, nothing could. But then you learn of additional things, because what really matters at the end is to make the change happen. If you're able to kind of do that, all right, so that's going to be something that's going to be you'll be able to be flexible. You need to be adapt to what's happening around you, and you can make the change happen to your career accordingly. I would say it would be my takeaways.
Very well summarized, Raj, and I totally agree with you. You need to learn, and learning is something that cannot stop. That has to be throughout.
Yeah.
It has to be constant. Yeah, totally agree. Ebrahim, any good takeaway from you?
Yes, so I learned this equation from one of my mentors, and he said it's a combination for you to succeed in change. It's a combination of attitude, experience, and technical knowledge. And Raj has touched very beautifully on all those things, especially when it comes down to attitude. So under attitude, one of the things biggest thing for me is change is different everywhere. You have to have a learning mindset. You have to be humble. You have to be ready to put in the work. You have to be ready to deal with disappointment. Change is difficult, especially when it involves people, and it will always involve people. So having the right attitude and the right mindset. So you can do that straight away from today. You can do that. The second thing I said was experience. Remember, one of the things I said at the start was change is happening where you are, get involved. That's the experience. And then the technical expertise, go and do some of the training. So as long as you're starting those three things, which is evident from the fact that you are on this session, then you've got the three things at least that you can start doing from today to put yourself in a good position for a good career in change management.
Very well said. Totally agree with you here. Priya, key takeaways from you?
Yeah. So I, of course, totally resonate with our EBME and Raj that change is inevitable. We see it's happening earlier. Maybe it was not in a category as change management. We may not have seen these kind of titles, but it is there. And now going ahead, it's going to be more and more important. So change is for every department. I don't really see that any particular these field people will also will only go in change, or it's only for these. It's for every function. You can take a look at it, whether you have a formal certification or whether you just have a knowledge about change management. If you just know that you need to improve a particular thing, you just start doing it, and that's the change management. So that's what I will say. And people side is, of course, very important for change management. Like we all know, we cannot do any change without taking care of people. So that's my takeaway.
Right. That's very true. Hey, thank you so much for your time and for sharing the valuable inputs. And thank you for attending the webinar. To all attendees, and please feel free to reach us for any further questions you might have. The email ID and the URL is already shared in the chat. So please feel free to reach us for any queries that you have in your mind, or just share your thoughts regarding change management. Thank you so much. It was really nice
Yeah.
talking to you all. Thank you.
Thank you all. If any other questions you have, you can write to me. I think Change It All have shared my email address. Anything regarding gig economy, freelancing, you can definitely write to me. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you, Nikita.
Bye.